Peter Obi, Nigeria's main opposition figure, the guy who came so close to becoming Nigeria's president in the 2023 general election, the guy that the ruling party APC fears more than death. Now, this guy, on October 26, 2025, he walks into a conference hall in Onitsha, Anambra State, Southeast Nigeria, and says something that's about to blow up the entire country, if not the entire continent. Yahoo boys are geniuses who need redirection, not condemnation. You know Yahoo boys. Do they need introduction? Because these are the most popular actors heard all around the world with Nigerian origin. In Nigeria, we call them Yahoo boys, internet scammers. Now, within hours after he made this statement, within hours, Nigerian social media goes absolutely wild. The ruling party fires back with a statement. News outlets are running with it everywhere. Parents are furious. Young people are split right down the middle. And suddenly, everybody in Nigeria is arguing about the same thing. Did Peter Obi just defend internet fraudsters? But look, here's what's getting buried in all of the noise. Nigeria has got a serious youth unemployment problem. Now, the official numbers say 6.5% unemployment. But here's the catch. That's using a new way of counting that basically says if you worked even 1 hour in a week, you are deemed employed. Under the old system back in 2020, we were looking at 53% unemployment for people aged between 15 and 24. The way they measured it changed, but the reality on the ground, not so much. And independent reports are telling us tens of millions of young Nigerians. We are talking tens of millions. Some sources say 80 million Nigerians are either jobless or stuck in jobs that barely pay anything. Plus, surveys from places like Afrobarometer are showing more and more young people seriously thinking about leaving the country. That number has been climbing over the past decade. These aren't just statistics. We are talking about Nigeria's future walking out of the door. So when Peter Obi calls these Yahoo boys geniuses, what was he really saying? Is he glorifying crime, or is he pointing out something nobody wants to admit? That Nigeria's system has failed so badly, it's pushing talented young people into illegal stuff because there's nowhere else for them to go. The APC says Peter Obi is being irresponsible. His supporters says he's finally speaking the truth. But strip away the politics for a second, and there is a real question here. These people doing crime, they have got digital skills, coding, communication, strategy. These are skills actual tech companies need. These are the same skills that built Flutterwave and Paystack, you know, the successful Nigerian startup companies. So the real question isn't whether Peter Obi is right or wrong. The real question is this: can Nigeria keep failing its young people like this? And if the country doesn't create real opportunities for this generation, what happens to Africa's biggest nation, one of Africa's biggest economy? Now, in this episode, we are breaking down what Peter Obi actually said and why it triggered this massive reaction. We are looking at how unemployment fits into these cyber crimes, and we are asking why this matters, not just for Nigeria, but for the whole of African continent. Stay with me, because what we are about to uncover goes way deeper than one controversial statement. On October 26, 2025, Onitsha, Anambra State, there is this youth conference happening called the Golden Health Conference. Theme is Money Beyond Wealth. Peter Obi, former Labour Party presidential candidate, he's there. And according to multiple news sources, he's talking about integrity, character, not chasing material things, standard stuff. Then he drops this line: some of our so-called Yahoo boys are geniuses who need redirection, not condemnation. He goes on, says their creativity and courage, if properly guided, could drive innovation and national development. The challenge, he says, is channeling this energy from deception towards something productive. Now, the statement spreads fast. I'm talking within minutes. It's all over X, formerly called Twitter. Instagram comment sections are filling up. Facebook blowing up. Nairaland Forum, those raw unfiltered Nigerian forums, they are going crazy. And people are split, like completely divided. Peter Obi's supporters, the obedient, they call themselves, they are defending him hard. They are saying, look, he's just acknowledging reality. Young Nigerians have skills, serious skills, but there is no legitimate way to use them. They are pointing at unemployment data, brain drain numbers, all these systematic barriers pushing youth into illegal stuff. But the critics, they are just as loud. They are saying Peter Obi is glorifying crime, pandering to fraudsters for votes, that a serious presidential candidate shouldn't be calling criminals geniuses. Some people are genuinely angry, like personally offended. The Lagos State APC issues an official response through their spokesperson, Seye Oladejo, and they are not holding back. They call Peter Obi's remarks morally reprehensible. They say he's romanticizing crime. Their exact words, there is nothing genuine about crime. They call internet fraud a social tragedy, not misdirected talent. And they are pointing at government programs like the 3 Million Technical Talent Initiative, saying those are the real solutions, not Obi's rhetoric. Now, politically, the stakes here are huge. Peter Obi came in third in the 2023 presidential election, about 6.1 million votes, and with 2027 elections about 18 months away, this statement could go either way for him. It could make him look like someone who tells uncomfortable truths, or it could wreck his credibility on questions of morality and leadership. But before we judge whether Peter Obi's framing makes sense, we need to look at what's actually happening on the ground. What's the real unemployment situation in Nigeria? And is there actually a connection between joblessness and cybercrime? Let's talk numbers, because the official statistics tell you half of the story. So, Nigeria's National Bureau of Statistics says youth unemployment is at 6.5% as of Q2 2024. Sounds manageable, right? But here's what that number really means. They changed how they count back in 2024. The new system follows International Labour Organization standards. And under those standards, if you worked even 1 hour during the reference week for pay or profit, you are counted as employed. Doesn't matter if it's informal work, casual labor, whatever. You worked an hour, you are employed. Now, under the old way of measuring, back in 2020, youth unemployment looked very different. We are talking about 53.4% for ages between 15 and 24, and 37.2% for ages between 25 and 34. The methodology changed, the numbers on paper changed, but ask any young Nigerian out there, has life actually gotten better? There was this report that came out in September 2025 called State of the Nigerian Youth. Media outlets we are citing is saying nearly 80 million unemployed youth are in Nigeria today. Now, we need to be careful here, because the specific methodology of that report, who exactly sponsored it, that needs verification. I'm talking about cost of living, unemployment. These are the top concerns for young people in Nigeria. And when they ask about emigration, the numbers, they show way more youth thinking about leaving Nigeria now compared to previous years. We are talking significant increases. So, what's causing all of this? Well, it's layered. Nigeria's education system is being characterized forever for focusing on theory instead of actual skills. The economy is still way too dependent on oil, which means other sectors aren't creating jobs. Then you have corruption, nepotism. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that creates barriers where merit doesn't matter as much as connections. Here's where it connects to cybercrime. Academic research, journals, policy reports, they consistently point out that unemployment and lack of opportunities are contributing factors. Not the only factors, but they are in the mix. Most unemployed Nigerian youth don't turn to crime. Let me be very clear about that. But unemployment creates conditions where some people facing economic desperation and seeing every legitimate door closed, they turn to illegal options. Now, the relationship isn't simple. Not all Yahoo boys are unemployed graduates looking for work. Some are just opportunistic criminals, and not all unemployed youths become criminals. Most keep searching for legitimate opportunities. But the overlap exists, and policy experts across the board, doesn't matter what party, They all say creating jobs is essential for reducing economic crimes. So when P2B says internet fraudsters, aka Yahoo boys, have genius level skills that need redirecting, he's making two claims. One is descriptive about what capabilities they have. The other is prescriptive about what policy should do. Next question is, what skills are we actually talking about here? Look, to understand what P2B means, calling these people geniuses, we have to examine what capabilities you actually need. They are not some kid in an internet cafe just sending out emails. These are organized networks. There is specialization, hierarchies, people passing down expertise. The skills researchers have documented fall into categories. Technical skill, that is understanding digital communication system. Basic to intermediate coding, knowledge of payment processing, fake websites, then operational skills, risk assessment, adapting when law enforcement catches on, financial management including money laundering, coordinating across networks with multiple people. Now, here's the thing. These are skills that legitimate tech companies actually value. Coding and digital infrastructure, that's what they teach at software bootcamps. Communication and persuasion, essential in sales and marketing. Strategic thinking and adaptation, that's core entrepreneurial stuff. The irony, and multiple analysts have pointed this out too, is that these exact skills applied legally could be economically productive. And Nigerian tech success stories prove it. Flutterwave, Paystack, both fintech companies worth billions of naira now, built by Nigerian founders who channel digital skills towards legitimate innovation. Mandela trains African developers for international jobs, proving Nigerian talent can compete globally when there is proper training and opportunity. But let's not skip over the harm being done here by these internet fraudsters, because it's real and it's severe. Because FBI, Interpol, law enforcement research documents that Nigerian cybercrime networks have defrauded victims of billions of dollars globally. We are talking elderly people losing their retirement savings, businesses taking major financial hits, fellow Nigerians getting scammed by domestic fraud operations, and the social dynamics around this in Nigeria, they are troubling. Some research shows cases where successful fraudsters get community recognition, chieftaincy titles in some instances, religious institutions accepting their donations, families throwing celebrations of their wealth. This social acceptance, even when everyone suspects or knows the money is dirty, it creates terrible incentives. Now, experts are saying this, criminologists, development economists, they describe it as factors converging: technical capability, economic desperation, weak law enforcement, social tolerance. As long as those conditions exist, cybercrime is going to keep attracting people, no matter how much we condemn it morally. So P2B calls them geniuses needing redirection. Critics call them criminals who should be prosecuted. Now, the Nigerian government's big answer to the skill gap in this program called 3 million technical talent, or 3MTT for short. They announced it in December 2023. The goal is to train 3 million Nigerians in technical skills by 2027. According to the National Information Technology Development Agency, they are the ones running it. 3MTT focuses on artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, cybersecurity, data science, software development, all that technical skills. They are partnering with training providers and tech companies to make it happen. They selected them from about 1.7 million applications, according to program announcements. Second cohort expanded significantly. Report says around 270,000 participants across batches. As of now, October 2025, program officials are saying over 90,000 people have completed training. Now, outcome data, we've got to be careful here. Tech Cabal did an analysis back in October 2024. They cited program statistics showing about 11.2% job placement rate for the first cohort. Over 3,500 jobs created. Now, other initiatives. NITDA partnered with companies like Cisco, offering training in data science and IT basics to smaller groups. There are other programs at smaller scales too. Nigerian Youth Academy, NIA, gives startup funding to young entrepreneurs. Reports say grants around 1 million naira each to selected participants. Various coding boot camps, government-supported and private ones, operating across Nigerian cities. But here's the challenge. It's about scale. If we are talking tens of millions of young Nigerians unemployed or underemployed, programs reaching hundreds of thousands annually, that's valuable for the people who get in, but it's a small fraction of the need. Even if 3MTT hits its target of 3 million by 2027, that still leaves the majority of unemployed youth with no access. And then there is infrastructure. Now, experts warn that without intensive long-term training, many graduates stay underemployed. And maybe most important, training without jobs just produces a more skilled unemployed population. You can teach 1 million young Nigerians how to build apps, but if there is no companies hiring, no startups getting funded, no ecosystem to absorb that talent, what have you actually accomplished? Success stories, they exist. People who completed training and got jobs, entrepreneurs who launched startups, these outcomes are real. But scaling from thousands to millions of success stories, that requires more than just training. It requires fundamental economic transformation to create opportunities. So government says it's addressing the problem through 3MTT. Obi says talent needs redirection. But what do young Nigerians themselves think about all of this? Peter Obi's statement generated intense reactions across Nigerian social media and forums, and I mean very intense. This thing revealed deep divisions about unemployment, crime, and moral responsibility. Comment on platforms and forums like Nairaland, as reported by media and visible in public posts, showed serious polarization. Some users supported Peter Obi's framing. Their argument: if former Boko Haram members can be rehabilitated through government programs, then people doing cybercrime could be redirected too. One perspective that showed up in multiple forums suggested that the communication and persuasion skills used in fraud could be channeled towards sales, marketing, legitimate businesses, like the underlying capabilities have productive potentials if redirected properly. But criticism was just as strong. Many commenters were angry at what they saw as Obi justifying criminal behavior. Some said they or family members had been fraud victims, making the genius label pandering to young voters without offering real policy solutions. Demographic patterns in reaction seem age-related because though we don't have systematic data, younger commenters on social media often showed more sympathy towards Obi's framing. Older commenters more frequently emphasized moral standards and rule of law. Regional variations probably exist too, but social media comments aren't representative samples because political figures jumped in as well. Reno Omokiri, the so-called political commentator, the strongest Peter Obi critic out there, posted responses on Instagram, criticizing the statement as poor judgment. The ruling party's condemnation got media coverage. Obi's supporters defended his remarks are addressing systematic failures. The deeper question beneath all these surface reactions is what they reveal about how Nigerian society views criminality and responsibility. Some Nigerians see cybercrime mainly as moral failure requiring punishment. Others see it mainly as economic desperation requiring opportunity creation. Many probably hold both views at the same time. How should society think about the people who turn to illegal alternatives? This isn't unique to Nigeria. It's a question countries across Africa and beyond are dealing with. But this crisis goes beyond Nigerian borders because youth unemployment and its relationship to economic crime, that's a continental challenge. So how does Nigeria's situation compare to the rest of Africa? Africa's demographic trajectory is going to profoundly shape this century. According to UN projections, Africa's population keeps growing substantially. Youth make up a huge majority in many African countries. By mid-century, several hundred million young Africans will enter workforce across the continent. This demographic reality is both enormous potential an enormous challenge. Current statistics show the median age in sub-Saharan Africa is about 19 to 20 years, makes it the world's youngest region. Youth under 30, they are about 70% of the population in many African countries. This youth surge could drive economic growth if young people get education, skills training, employment. Without that, it could fuel instability, migration, and crime. And cybercrime isn't uniquely Nigerian. According to law enforcement agencies, including Interpol, cybercrime has increased across Africa. Ghana's cybersecurity authorities reported significant financial losses. Interpol put out a report in 2025 documenting that African countries have collectively lost billions to cybercrimes in recent years. Suspected scam notifications increasing dramatically in some places. The report emphasized cybercrimes are sophisticated, but Africa's digital economy also shows tremendous legitimate potential. World Bank, African Development Bank analysis, they are saying Africa's digital economy is growing rapidly. I'm talking about e-commerce, fintech, digital services expanding. If properly developed, the digital sector could represent significant percentage of African GDP by 2050. It will create millions of jobs. Successful tech hubs exist across the continent. Kenya's tech ecosystem, particularly Nairobi's innovation community, they produce notable successes, including M-Pesa, the mobile money platform. Rwanda has invested in digital infrastructure and innovation centers. Nigerian startup Flutterwave and Paystack hit billion-dollar valuations, providing African tech companies can compete globally. Now, the African Continental Free Trade Area, or you can call it the AfCFTA, includes a digital trade protocol, aims to create integrated continental market for goods and services, including digital stuff. Youth development and digital skills are recognized priorities in AfCFTA framework, though implementation timelines are long-term. Brain drain is a major problem too, because many African countries train doctors, engineers, professionals who then leave for higher income countries. Nigeria experiences substantial emigration of skilled people. Diaspora remittances, money sent home by people working abroad, that's billions of dollars annually for Nigeria. This has exceeded foreign direct investment for many years. So while remittances provide essential income for families, they also represent lost human capital development within Nigeria. Nigerian passport holders do face relatively high refusal rates applying for visas to places like the US and UK. Various factors contribute: concerns about overstaying, fraud, immigration violations. So why these restrictions affect innocent travelers? They reflect broader reputational challenges. The continental question is whether Africa's youth surge becomes a demographic dividend or a demographic disaster. The answer depends on policy choices about education, infrastructure, job creation, and governance. And Nigeria, as Africa's most populous country, it plays an outsized role in shaping continental trajectories. So Africa has got this young population with potential, but realizing that potential requires confronting uncomfortable truths. And P2B again stated one of those truths explicitly earlier this year, that government corruption might exceed street-level crime and damage. So in January 2025, university graduation ceremony, P2B was there. There are more Yahoo people in government. Nigeria has become a crime scene where both people inside the government and outside the government are stealing, just at different scales. Now, this comparison, it hit at something fundamental in Nigerian public discourse: the relationship between elite corruption and street-level crimes. Now, specific corruption cases should be evaluated individually based on evidence and legal proceedings, but it's well documented that Nigeria faces significant governance challenges. Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index consistently ranks Nigeria in the lower half globally, indicates perceived high level of public sector corruption. Now, various reports from Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, document investigations into alleged corruption involving public officials, though not all investigations lead to convictions. Academic research on governance in Nigeria, published in journals, policy reports, they identifies issues including budget padding, contract inflation, diversion of public funds. Some cases get extensive media coverage and public attention. Others remain in legal proceedings for years without resolution. The question of selective enforcement gets raised by various observers and civil society organizations. Some argue that EFCC and other agencies focus disproportionately on smaller scale fraud while lacking capacity or political will to successfully prosecute high-level corruption involving politically connected people. Others defend the agencies, saying they are doing their best within constraints, limited resources, political pressure, complex legal procedures. What's documented is a perception gap here because surveys including Afrobarometer data shows many Nigerians perceive government corruption as a serious problem. This perception affects trust in government and belief that the system rewards merit and honesty. The moral authority question is real. Can a system perceived as corrupt at the top effectively condemn fraud at the bottom? Not to justify cybercrime, but to acknowledge the legitimacy. So addressing this requires what researchers call vertical accountability, holding those in power accountable to those they govern. Independent judiciary, free press, electoral mechanisms. Some scholars and activists argue anti-corruption efforts must start at the top to have credibility. Others argue all crimes should be prosecuted regardless of perpetrator status. Both positions have merit, and they are not mutually exclusive. Ideally, law enforcement will address both elite corruption and street-level crime effectively. Here, cultural dimension, they matter too, because when communities celebrate wealth without scrutinizing its source, whether from government contracts or internet fraud, it creates social acceptance of ill-gotten gains. Some religious and traditional leaders have spoken against this, refusing tainted money. So here's where we are. P2B called Yahoo boys geniuses who need redirection. Ruling party, the APC, they called the statement morally reprehensible. Public opinions divided. The underlying crisis, unemployment, underemployment, corruption, lack of opportunity, they are well documented and severe. Nigeria has got nearly 40 million youth between 15 to 24 age range, according to demographic projections. Millions more in their late 20s and early 30s. Most are law-abiding citizens struggling with limited opportunities. Small percentage turn to cybercrime. Government programs train hundreds of thousands while millions remain unreached. The fundamental question isn't really about labels, geniuses, criminals, victim, perpetrator. The fundamental question is about systems. They are policy challenges requiring concrete actions. Economic diversification, education reform, infrastructure investment, anti-corruption enforcement, job creation incentives, and many more. Other African countries face similar challenges at different levels. Solutions that work in Nigeria could inform approaches elsewhere. The youth aren't waiting for perfect solutions. Surveys show many are planning emigration if conditions don't improve. This brain drain deprives Nigeria of talent it desperately needs. The question is whether policy changes can occur rapidly enough to retain and productively employ a generation that is losing faith in the system. Now, if you have watched to this point, this is Frontline Africa. This is where we talk about geopolitics from Africa's own point of view. This is where we bring you the story with the kind of details mainstream media does everything to avoid. Now, this issue about Yahoo boys, you don't need introduction to what these Yahoo boys is really about. They are a cancer to the society. They are a threat to the cashless society because they are everywhere scamming both locally and internationally. Everywhere around the world, they are well known. But the question I want to ask is this. What do you think about this statement by P2B? Do you think he's making a point? Or do you think he's talking as a politician desperate for votes who has to appeal to a large percentage of Nigerian youths who are sympathetic to cybercrime? These are all opinions expressed across social media in Nigeria, not my opinion. The question is, do you agree with this? Go to the comment section and make your point. And if you want to see more of my videos, maybe consider to subscribe and turn on those notifications. I am your host, Ezekiel Enejeta, and I will see you in the next one. It's a bye-bye for now.